So we're going to just do the show then?
I mean, if you want to do the show, we do the show, or we can catch up for a while. Whatever you want to do. You're the boss.
We'll just do the show, and then we'll catch up.
I don't think you're going to catch up with me at all. I think that's what's going to happen.
Oh, shut up, Tony.
Oh, shut up. That was me. That was my Dan impression.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, shut up. It's a little, I'll work on it. I got to get in a lower register for it.
Oh, shut up. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do the intro.
All right.
What's the name of the show?
Hey, watch it! With Dan and Tony! Hey, watch it! With Dan and Tony! It's Hey, watch it, yeah!
Welcome to the first episode of Hate Watching with Dan and
Tony. I wasn't sure if I was saying it or if you were saying it.
And on this show, we're going to be, we will have watched a movie, and then we're going to talk about it. Tony, why don't you tell the viewer, get that as a joke, the viewer. So we'll probably only get one. Set up some expectations. Tell them what movie we're watching this week.
This week we watched the wonderful Oscar-winning film, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, did it? I read that it was nominated. Did it actually win? Oh, it won like art direction and
it won effects. Art direction and costume design. I think it won 3. I think
it won special effects too. I think that was the other one.
Yes, and that's the one I'm super bitter about because it beat Iron Man, and I was like, come on, they made a man fly. They just made Brad Pitt look old. Fuck off.
Did they make Brad Pitt look old?
No.
Did they?
It's all. Oh, I'm so.
Okay. Well, we'll get into all that.
Get ahead of ourselves.
So did you actually do some research on the movie in addition to watching it?
You wanted me to do research?
I'm asking if you did do research.
I only looked up the Oscar nominations and wins because I was like, I can't believe this movie won anything, let alone was nominated like 13 times.
Best Picture.
Best Picture, not a chance. Not a chance. Tropic Thunder came out that year, okay? Yes, exactly.
Was Tropic Thunder up for the Best Picture?
It wasn't up for Best Picture, but RDJ was up for supporting, but lost to Heath Ledger for Dark Knight, which is okay. I'll allow it because it was like,
yeah, that's
good.
That was actually in the, we should watch that movie at some point. Oh God, that movie.
One of your favorite films.
Yeah,
I can tell.
So the premise of this show is that we're going to watch a movie and then we're going to tear it to little tiny bits, and we're going to try and we're not going to just pick generally, we're not going to pick movies off, the Chiller Network that, were made for $5 and, that you're just like not
Which
surprised.
Has a market and is very entertaining, by the way.
Do you have the Chiller?
Of course. Why would I not, Dan? I have a lot of time on my hands and a lot of late nights and just like, you know what I need right now? Something's a little messed up.
Crack the old Chiller, and there you go. And you watched this with your wife. She wanted to watch it with you.
That was all on her. I did not force it. I was not like, hey, let's do this. She was like, I'll do it. Let's do it together. I want to see this movie. Never saw it. She checked out about a third of the way through and started reading a book. And so then we broke halfway through and we're like, you know what, let's reset and watch later. And then she still cried. It still got her. We'll get to that when.
Well, she cried at the end.
Yes. She cried at the end. I did not.
And that's the thing about this movie is, the ending is sad because
the whole
it's actually
kind of sad.
Is the whole thing? See, that's where I disagree. I had my notes. I wrote down
like pen and paper. I got mine typed out. Here, all pen and paper.
The first actual human emotion was at hour 1:49.
What was it? Out of curiosity.
That was the point at which Benjamin Button goes to New York City to do the blonde girl, and then she's like with not blonde girl, redhead girl.
Redhead, yeah.
Cate Blanchett. I will not refer to characters as their names. I will refer to them as their actors because they weren't really characters generally.
No, which we need to talk about because it was Brad Pitt was nominated, the mom was nominated, and I was like, "What is happening?" But sorry, keep going. Go with your emotion.
And so he has that emotion of like, thinking that he's going there to see his lady love, and she's got another boyfriend, and he's emotionally affected by that. And in my opinion, that was the first time that he's emotionally affected by anything. I can't
argue that in the slightest, because even when he's old as a kid, one of the things he said is he was just like, being old's not so bad. And it's like, wait, then why do I care?
But at one point he also says, I don't like getting old.
Right, which is confusing.
Because I wrote that down. Because I wrote that line came after the 2-hour mark. I don't remember what I didn't write down why he said that.
Yeah.
But he also said that it's not so bad getting old.
I have so many thoughts right now. Okay, first of all, let's go back to the New York scene because that was my least favorite scene in the whole movie. And let me tell you why, Dan.
Wait, when he goes to see the girl?
When he goes to see the girl and goes to her show. Hold on.
I know why you're angry. You're angry because he shows up in the middle of her show.
It's not even the middle. It's the end. He watches for like 30 seconds. First of all, nobody's going to let you into the fucking show that late. You are either at the beginning or you are getting there at intermission. And then the doors are closed, pal. You can't do it. Second of all, why are you showing up that late? Did you not know you were going to the show? What were you doing in New York, Brad Pitt?
I'm tickets and traveled to New York from New Orleans.
You travel all the way there, just like, I'll get to the show eventually. It's not that important to me. Oh my God, it drove me crazy. And then he's like, you did great in the show. I love the show. No, you didn't. You didn't see the show. You saw the one last lift, and that was it. Get out of here. I wouldn't take him back either. I'd be like, you know what? Go home. Go to Louisiana. Fuck off. I'll see you later. That pissed me off so much. I was so mad.
Okay. Well, we unpacked some of that scene. We'll get back to that scene later. Let's go. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, let's go back.
Actually, I have the 3 pages of notes I made during the film, and then I have the 2 pages of notes that I made after I went back through the plot, so that we'd have all the plot.
That's great.
The framing sequence with Daisy and Benjamin Button's daughter. Spoiler.
Oh, right. Yes.
What did you think of the framing thing? What did it add anything to the movie?
I think I made a note at the end of my notes that I still don't know why some of that beginning was in the movie at all.
You mean the weird clock thing or
okay. Yeah, let's talk about the clock. What is the clock?
Let's not do the clock thing because let's do the clock thing second. But we're just talking about the framing sequence. So the framing sequence is the mother is dying and she was Benjamin Button's girlfriend, lover, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then it's her daughter reading Benjamin Button's diary to find out all of this information. And Hurricane Katrina is happening.
Okay. So I couldn't remember, and I'm a bad person. I couldn't remember when Katrina happened, but I was like, I'm pretty sure they're just throwing a horrible disaster into this movie for no reason because she's already dying. Yep. Why does there need to be a hurricane? What does that have to do with anything other than like, yes, there's a horrible tragedy about to befall this entire community, and we're not going to focus on it at all. So many people died, but we're going to talk about this one old lady who kind of sort of loved a guy who aged. I don't understand why Katrina was in there at all. It's dumb. I hated it. I feel like I missed the setup a little bit because once we started reading, I was like, where did this diary come from and why are we reading it? I don't. Oh,
the diary.
Was there an actual setup?
Yes. When he reappears as a 10-year-old at the end of Benjamin Button reappears as 10 years old, they find the diary in his backpack. So he's got dementia. They find the diary in his backpack, and her name is in there.
That's right.
The mom's Daisy's name is in there.
Okay.
And so there's so much of this movie that's kind of like that. They have the whole thing with the old folks home, which is really just just this place that anyone can go there and stay at any time without paying anyone and eat the food and do whatever they want. And anytime they can just come back, and no one runs the place. No one owns the place. No one cares about anything. It's just
At
this
all.
convenient location that everyone can converge upon
Whose
for no
house is
reason.
it?
Who
Because
knows?
it's not the mom's. She works there, right?
Yeah,
Or
she works there. She works there. It's an old folks home. So ostensibly, the people that live there pay some money into some. I mean, I live across the street from a halfway house, and you know what happens in a halfway house? Someone runs it. They hire employees. They have an amount of money that comes into the situation that then is, that then they.
Well, there has to be
you know,
some sort of order to the
Yes.
place. It's just it's just it's chaos there, and nobody seems to care. I don't understand. I don't understand anything in this movie. I'm going to be honest.
And so, of course, everyone understands what Benjamin Button is. He's a guy that ages backwards. So he's born very old, and then he gets younger. He gets younger as time goes along, right? That's because and the great thing about this is moved into our lexicon of, like if someone gets older and they continue to look younger, blah blah blah. Never once in this movie does anyone confront him about this happening to him.
Right?
All these people sort of see, even Daisy, his lady love, just barely skims the surface of what might be going on.
So to me, the pinnacle of this is the daughter reading the journal throughout the movie. The only part she gets caught up about is that this is her dad. She's like, wait, this is my dad? I can't believe you never told me that. I'm like, this guy's aging in reverse, and you're just blowing past that? How is this normalized in this movie? I don't understand, because there's no setup. It's not like this has ever happened before, but everyone's just okay with it. They're just like, okay, that makes sense. But let's focus on these other things that don't make sense. I was so bewildered that she wasn't more upset or confused by this journal.
Is this true? Is this real? Is this she never
Imagination.
Yeah, she never questions her mom about the veracity of the insane story that she's reading.
Just like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy ages in reverse. That's commonplace.
So talk to me about the clockmaker.
I can't, Dan. I don't know who he is. I don't know who his son is that's at war or something. I don't know why the clock. First of all, who let him make the clock and then hang it? Because there's a process for hanging this clock in this place that someone along the way would have been like, oh, by the way, your clock runs backwards and we'd like it to run forwards like every other clock in the world before we put it in this massive building. Who approved this?
Well, I mean, he was blind, right?
Sure. But like,
maybe it was like, where you hire somebody with an issue, so that like they didn't want to make him feel bad
You're
about.
Like, by the way, sir, you made a very large error in your clock.
Maybe they could have just switched the numbers, put the 6 over here and the 9 there and the 12 there.
People would have gotten it.
But yeah, I mean, instantaneously in this movie, so this guy, this blind clockmaker who has no relation to anything else in the movie, makes this clock, puts this clock in a train station. They turn on the clock runs backwards, and everybody's like,
cool. Okay, copy that. We'll see you later.
And then the clockmaker disappears. And what happened to the clockmaker?
I don't know.
He might have gone to sea.
That's right. Yes.
Which they cut to a scene of the man in a rowboat rowing out to sea. When you think of someone going to sea, what do you think, Tony?
I think of him just swimming. I think that's the bare bones way to do it.
He's going to do
the backstroke.
You think he gets on a merchant freighter and leaves
goes to a different place. He's like, I'm going to go explore the world, maybe, or something. Why? What is he doing? In the rowboat's not going to make it very far, right? I mean, that's just like that because he's going to get tired before he gets anywhere. It's an ocean, guys. So where is he going? Who is he, and why did I have to watch it? Why do we care? Did you find anything in this post research that you did that explains his connection to anything?
Well, I will say one thing in some of my research. The person who wrote the movie was Eric Roth. who
sounds
also
familiar.
wrote Forrest Gump.
It does feel very Forrest Gump.
And during his writing, he worked on the story with someone else, but he wrote the movie. He wrote Forrest Gump. He lost both of his parents while he was writing this movie, and he refers to this movie as his most personal movie.
Okay.
So this movie really is just sort of a movie about remembrance, right? That's
Which
really
makes-
what this
that
movie
makes
is
sense.
about. And it's his personal movie, so he's writing it from almost the, in my opinion, from almost the vantage point of him being a writer, right? And what does a writer do? A writer doesn't live life. A writer sits there and watches life lived.
Yes.
You know, and that's kind of how I live my life. You know, it's like I don't do anything. I just sit at home and make stuff and watch TV and watch a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't live life. I don't go anywhere. I don't travel. I've done a couple things in my life, but for the most part, I've done nothing.
Great. This is an uplift.
I am not Ernest Hemingway. And that's so it's kind of like as if a writer is trying to like both be a writer and both be the adventurer, but really he's just a writer because a writer just observes and talks about stuff.
Which actually, that actually feels like it makes a lot of sense to me because we don't spend much time in any one place. It's very brief. It's more just like, oh, this kind of happened, and now let's move to this other thing that kind of happened. There's never like, I never felt grounded, and that sounds weird in a movie about a guy that aged backward, but I never felt grounded in any of the scenes that we were in because we don't live in them.
Nope. Well, because nothing really happens. I mean, his things happen in his life, but truthfully, and that's the difference between this movie and Forrest Gump. Is Forrest Gump, he's there to see all these huge things that happen and have some effect on them in some way, and in his own weird way be affected to some. He realizes he is watching history.
Yes.
This character is just Brad Pitt's character doesn't add anything to the world.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't really affect the lives of the people around him, right?
Nope.
He doesn't like save a life or do anything. He's more just like a really casual, disinterested observer. He
is disinterested.
Yeah.
I don't what you're saying is making a lot of sense because I'm not connected to the movie because he's not connected to his own story. At
the end, he disappears with Cate Blanchett on their boat ride, and he comes back, and his mom has died.
Pretty conveniently, by the way, because they make it to the funeral. I found that very weird.
Well, we can talk about the hyper coincidences of everything. Let's get back to that in a second. But like, if I like disappeared and came back from having a fun trip and one of my parents had died, that would be a level of grief and
guilt.
You would feel like a piece of garbage.
Yes, so like, oh my God, I missed your final moments because I was off gallivanting in the sea with my lady friend. Sorry, guy, you fucked up.
And that's the other thing is he has a sister essentially, who maybe she was in after her being about 12. I don't even remember ever seeing her again.
I don't think we do.
I mean,
I totally forgot that I forgot he had a sister. That's weird.
Because she doesn't count as a sister, because he is like he's disinterested in his own damn life, which. Okay. So he's living in the old folks' home, and he starts as an old guy, and his mom. Oh, we didn't do his birth. Well, he gets born. His dad sees him, and his dad runs to throw him in the river to kill him.
First of all, the way that the dad snatches the baby out of the crib is so aggressive. He just and then he just bolts, and I was like, "Whoa! You couldn't even sneak it." Like if I was gonna kill a baby, not that I'm gonna kill a baby, But like, if that was something that was going to happen, I wouldn't do it so overtly. Like, I would pick it up and be like, oh, I love this baby. I love this baby. Then I sneak out the back. Okay. You don't just bolt with the kid. Very weird scene to me. And then when he's at the river, he obviously he waits a minute. He's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it.
Tweet.
The baby's screaming, and that guy's like, what do you got there? What do you think he has? It's a crying baby. There's not a lot of options. He's cradling it here. What do you got there? I don't know. I
don't know. You may not have seen the original Dr. Dolittle movie, but Dr. Dolittle needs to get this seal back to the ocean. And
how many Dr. Dolittle movies have there been?
I believe there's about 2.
Which is the first one the Eddie Murphy? So then there's 3, Dan, because there's one that just came out with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, you're correct. It's the original 1960s with Rex Harrison, which was a musical, which is incredible. I put that on the list of our movies to see, but
it's a musical.
I love it to death. Oh my God, yes, Anthony Newley.
I'm sold. I love musicals, Dan.
So beautiful.
Good. And he got to get a seal back.
So this seal was in captivity, so he has to smuggle it. He smuggles it to the shore, and he has it dressed as something, and he throws it in the ocean, and then he goes on trial because they think that he threw somebody into the ocean and killed somebody. But I think they think it's an old woman as opposed to a baby, now that I think about it. But so it could have been a baby seal.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. It could have been a little tiny animal. Who knows? What do you got there?
So tweet. The dad's like, runs away and then leaves the baby like on just some random steps.
Okay, I'll wait for a second because he just got steps.
Taraji P. Henson finds him, and then her boyfriend is Mahershala Ali, who is one of the greatest actors of all time.
But not in this movie.
Well, and you just said it, but not in this movie. Yeah. Let me cut that down. Not in this movie. He's not in this movie. What is he? Very
briefly, and then we disappear, and then we come back, and he's like, "Oh no, he died." Okay, what?
Dad, and at the end when they're doing the wrap up of everybody, he's like, "And people who love Shakespeare," because at one point he has like a little 15-second Shakespeare quote.
We'll get to the wrap up later. I hated the wrap up. That was so stupid. But I love Mahershala. Love him. I think he's great. I did not like him in this movie, but it might have been just because it was so brief and then gone, and it was like, why is he there? Why is he even there at all? But to just accept this baby, they're not married, right? Him and
no.
So they're not married. He's just, in love with her, I guess.
Sort of.
They're together-ish.
They're together-ish, but there's never a point at which you're like, oh man, these people love each other and really care about each other. But, sure. And there's, it's like, we don't understand what their relationship is.
That's fair. I'm led to believe that they care for each other. But he just accepts this baby, like no questions asked. Both of them. And I was
well, she couldn't have babies, so that's sort of the idea.
And that's just so convenient, right? Really? He just happens to be left on the step of a woman who's infertile, for now, at least. And nobody else would accept this baby. I feel bad saying that. The baby's scary. And nobody, if anyone else had found that baby, the baby's gone. The baby gets washed away in a drain.
And I'm going to say this. I'd heard about this movie. I didn't see it when it came out. This was the first time I'd ever seen any part of it. Look, usually with bad movies, I'll read about them, and maybe I'll see a little bit, and I'll just be like, ugh. But this one, I'd never seen anything. And I was like, I really expected that baby to be horrific. I expected...
It should have been.
And it was kind of like, because it was like, they tried to take baby skin, which is like, smooth and soft, and then make it wrinkly.
Wrinkle it, yeah.
They didn't make it like a desiccated mummy corpse, So
I don't. Maybe we can save this for later, but I have problems with his entire life process. because I would disagree that it makes sense. I don't think they did it right. His aging and, reverse aging. I don't think they did it right. I think they did it wrong. Can we talk about it right now, or you want to wait?
Yeah, let's.
Okay,
I'm
so
intrigued by how they did it wrong.
Because he's born as a baby,
a small old man
who's just old, right? It's like an old, but he's a baby size.
Yes.
So then he grows up, right? Gets taller as he gets younger, because I guess.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Our back shrink, but then he becomes a baby again. We don't become a baby twice, Dan. We die a full-size person, or at least close to.
So he should have been a 6 foot tall baby at the end.
A giant baby, man, and that's a movie I want to see. Okay, I want to see a guy who's just like. That's the movie I want to see. I don't want to see him come back to a baby and then watch a baby die. First of all, fuck you. Don't make me watch a baby die. That baby closing his eyes was brutal. I did not enjoy that. But it doesn't make sense because he started as a baby. We don't go baby to baby. Nobody goes baby to baby except for Benjamin Button. And that's just not right. He should have been born. Either he should have been born a full-size man, which would have been terrible, or he should die a full-size baby. It's one of the two. They did it wrong. I'm sorry. It's incorrect. It's not factual.
It doesn't follow the science.
That's right. It's the science they built, and it's wrong. Anyhow, that's my argument.
Yes. Well, and the whole convenient thing of him getting dementia at age, when he's at the end.
So my other question is, was his age predetermined at birth?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I got too.
It had to be.
Which again doesn't make sense.
It was interesting because I constantly was trying to sort out what year it was and how old he was, and I think that was one of the huge issues with the movie is that constantly in your own brain you're like, okay,
how old is he? What year is it? How old is? Yes.
And I think if they'd have just really locked that down and actually told the dates, because on the Wikipedia page they say all the dates.
Because you have to. To understand it, you have to.
Because I really felt like when he at one point he goes to the brothel with Tugboat Captain Man.
Yep.
And I'm like, is he emotionally 12 or 13?
Right.
Because it just seemed really, really weird.
Yep. It is.
Weird. As opposed to him being what?
I even felt it was weird when he was drinking with his dad. Like when they were doing, or no, when was it Mike? Whoever he got drunk with when he was like 14 or 15, they got super hammered. And I was like, this feels weird because I don't know if those people know that he's a child. Let's go back for a second and talk about when he meets the girl for the first time, and he's like this old man and she's a child, and the child comes to him and is like, hey, let's go sneak out. And I was like, oh no, danger. I know that he's supposed to be emotionally the same age, but it's still Brad Pitt's face and it's still a child. And I was against it the whole time. I hated it.
It automatically there are bells that ring in your soul when you're just like, it just doesn't, and there were no consequences of that either. At one point they're under the table with the candle and the mom or grandma, whoever it was, comes and's like, get out of there. But there's no what are you doing? There's no recriminations. Nobody ever is like, what are you up to with my young
right, you freaky old dude. Don't steal my children. There's nobody seems to care that he's aging backwards. I feel like we talked about it already, but it's so weird that they're not even living in their own reality that they've created, because they're basically ignoring the fact that he's 80 years old at 12, and I don't know. Nobody cares enough.
Well, there was a part at which he finally says, oh, I think he's 27 years old, and he finally says something about, I finally figured out what's going on with me. and you're 27, like you would have been having these very deep conversations with your mom when you're like 10 and 12 years old, like, Mama,
why is everyone so different than me?
Why did he ever once in his life go to his mother and say, why is everyone so different? I mean,
what is going on?
This would be a character that would be highly conflicted.
Oh, for sure. He should be tortured. And I don't wish that upon people, but if this was real life, he would be a tortured soul. And people would not accept him, which everyone does. It's just it's not believable.
In any other movie, you would have to hide out from the government because the government was going to come and pick you up and take you to a lab and dissect you.
Which they should have. What's wrong with him? Somebody tell me. No one ever told me what's wrong with this guy.
Never saw a doctor his entire life.
which is insane.
Never. No doctors. No doctors.
What, did he never get sick? Because I mean, we never really saw him sick, and I understand it's we're seeing the best parts of his life, but how would he go to a doctor? Except for those like 10 years in the middle where they kind of his age and actual age kind of match up.
More
Other than
importantly,
that, he's a freak.
How does he get a driver's license? How to do anything? How do you get paid? How do you do anything? I mean, I guess he lived on the edge of reality, sort of. So he never really had to have a job because he was rich because he finally got the dad's money.
Yeah, the button.
So he goes off really early with the other guy, the bush. Was he a bushman? He was like from the circus or something. The other guy I'd forgotten about this character.
I don't know.
He was the other African American guy that just sort of shows up at the old folks' house. And he goes off on like what he calls the greatest day of his life, which is just like
adventure.
And then that guy just ditches him.
Yeah, he meets up with a lady and he's like, all right, peace, kid. You can find your way home because you're 90 years old. You get it.
I just found that incredibly rude. And he thought it was great. It's just like, I don't know. That one bugged me.
If you were an actual kid and the adult supervisor that you're with suddenly abandons you miles and miles from your home for like some woman, yeah, you'd be upset. You'd be a little confused. You'd be a little upset. And you would be like, hey, maybe take me home first. Why are we here? But no, I'll just miss a train and then just, I guess, walk. Did he walk?
He walked all the way home. And I will tell you this. Those trains come every like half an hour. That train, I've been to New Orleans. That train is not like once a year. It's like, it's train.
He doesn't know. The kid doesn't know nothing.
He followed the train tracks. So he would have, here comes another one. Here comes, whatever. So one day he's hanging out by the docks and he meets the tugboat captain. And he's sitting there. He's old. He's probably, so let's assume he's 15. He lived to 85. So he's in a 70-year-old body.
Yeah.
65 to 70-year-old body. They're sitting there and tugboat guy is like, I need somebody to work on my tugboat. And do you remember what the guy next to him says?
He never pays?
He never pays.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I don't need money.
And it's just a dropped line. Like that never becomes a thing that you've set up that this guy is cheap and that he's a problem. Who knows?
Did he ever pay? I don't know. We never talked again.
We know he paid because they stay in fancy hotels. But we're not going to talk about that.
And I guess when they went to war, that other guy hands him his bundle of bills. You remember that? So they do get paid.
They get paid. So that guy's a liar and doesn't know shit. So he becomes, Mr. Tugboat Worker as a 70-year-old man.
So that's
you know how hard it is to work on a tugboat?
I really don't. I'll tell you that right now, Dan. I do not.
Have you ever seen The Deadliest Catch?
Of course.
Are there any 70-year-old guys on deck pulling pots out of the sea?
So because it's a lot of physical labor. And so then this is part of I get so confused on how his his body works, because he's old.
Broken. He's a broken old man. He has brittle bones because he had arthritis at the beginning. So he's not. He is fragile beyond comprehension, but he's taken on one of the manliest jobs in the world and can do it effortlessly, and do it for years without tiring. And of course, so he does that, and then they go on a tugboat trip of the world. Somehow the tugboats around the world.
Great tugboat.
Farthest reaches of everywhere, and ends up in Moscow, and he ends up in a hotel. So talk about the hotel. Talk about the hotel and his first affair with Tilda Swinton.
Right. I couldn't remember her name. Couldn't remember her name. So first of all, do we know how old he is at that juncture?
So that would have been 40. That would have been 41 exactly. He was born in 1918.
Okay.
So he is 28, 38. So he's 23, which in his years makes him 62. He's 62. He appears 62. He is 23.
Okay. So they're the only people that apparently can't sleep in the hotel, which is fine. That's fine. And they meet in the lobby. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. In the lobby.
And then he makes tea.
Mm-hmm.
But he really just makes...
Which he doesn't know how to make.
Right. No. He just makes hot water. I mean, that's what it is. And she teaches him to keep the packet in the... I don't know.
Kind of. There's sort of a thing where she doesn't say, I would like some tea, and he tries to make her tea, and he fails, and she helps him because he doesn't know how to make tea, which is a perfectly relevant plot thing to do to bring them together. But a bunch of random, but that doesn't happen.
No, and I don't even remember what they talked about other than her swimming, because I don't remember if that comes up the first night or if that just comes up eventually.
Eventually.
But they talk about her swimming. I have no idea what connection they had in order to keep coming back, because I didn't feel it. Right. I didn't feel it at all. It was just like I thought it was super awkward, and I was like, oh, well, she's never coming back. But then they come back again and again, and then they hook up, and I was like, what is happening right now? He's not that charming. I'm sorry. He's a dull character, and he does nothing. Is it just because he listens to her? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe her husband doesn't listen to her. I don't know. I'm not in that relationship.
And what is her husband's profession?
I don't remember.
He works for like the British consulate or something. But more importantly, Brad Pitt's overtalk, what do you call that? Voiceover says he's a spy.
Oh yes, that's right.
Now we're gonna do Chekhov's rule, which is Chekhov was a playwright, and Chekhov's rule was anytime you put a gun in a scene, somebody better pick that gun up and use it. Yeah. Anytime you name someone as a spy,
I totally forgot.
What the? I'm like,
that should have come.
He's gonna put a gun in Brad Pitt's face when he's screwing his wife. No, nothing. Zero.
No, the spy doesn't care. Listen, the spy's out doing spy things and getting all the James Bond tail. You know, he's fine. He's doing all right.
So somehow the two of them meet in this lobby and make tea every night and do stories from midnight to 6 a.m. 6 hours of story time when they could have been sleeping. And then ostensibly he goes back and works on a tugboat.
Yes. Yeah.
So he works 14-hour day on a tugboat, comes home,
doesn't sleep at all,
eats some quick dinner, talks to her for 6 hours, and then his 60-year-old body is ready to do it again. Every day.
He's a magic old man. That's why I get so confused about his physiology. Because I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm old enough. I get tired. And sure, I'm out of shape. I'm overweight. I get it. But like my body is by the end of the day, 7 o'clock maybe, I'm like, I just want to sit down for a while. Like I am pooped. I don't want to do anything. This guy, 30 years my senior, is out kicking ass for 24 hours a day. Unbelievable. I'll have what he's having.
So then, well, I'm going to go back one really quick one because I can't let this one go.
Oh, sure.
When he was younger, he's in a wheelchair, and then he says in the overtalk, what's it called? When he talks over voiceover, he says, on Saturday nights, Mama made me go to church. On Saturday nights, Mama made me go to church. Okay. And then we have a scene where he goes to church and the faith healer is like, who might you be? I have never met you before. I have never seen you before. I don't know who you are.
Welcome to our church for the first time.
Brings Benjamin Button up on stage, gets him to walk, and then the guy falls dead.
Yes. Oh, my God. I forgot about that scene entirely. And he heals the mom.
Yeah. I'm not even, I don't even want to go
blow past that part. Where
I don't even know what that is.
Now.
What?
Because I'm telling you, the only reason that she was infertile in the beginning was so that it's believable that she would pick up this horrendous child. And then, later down the road, we'll just make her a full human being. Fuck you. That's ridiculous. Why do you have to fix her? That kind of aggravated me. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. You don't have to fix her. All right. Is it just she can't have kids? Okay. She's got a kid, she's giving it her love.
So she could have that other child that has nothing to do with the movie.
Other than there's one line where he's like, well, everything was different after that. No, it wasn't. It seems exactly the same, Benjamin. Except for then you just leave because you're 17. I don't know.
So then they go to war in the tugboat, but one guy doesn't go to war for a reason we don't know. And then they have
his wife isn't doing well. That part I remember is like, my wife's not doing well. I should go see her.
Did you believe him? I didn't believe him when he said that.
Nah, he just didn't want to go to war. He's old and he doesn't care. He's like, why am I fighting for a country I don't love?
And then they're in the war, and then he says nothing happened, and then he says later, oh yeah, something happened. And they have a fight with a U-boat, which I really liked that part. That part was great.
Okay, can we talk about the science of it? Because I'm not versed in sea military construction, but they just drove their boat into a submarine and blew up the submarine, but their boat was pretty much fine?
Yeah, I think the science on that's pretty good. The science I didn't like was that the submarine had blown up a transport ship, and then there were bodies floating in the water like 2 miles away from the transport, which didn't make any sense to me. Like, whatever.
Spatially, sure.
Yeah, like these bodies just like beep, whatever. Yeah, I think if you rammed a tugboat into a sub, it would not do good because it could very easily breach the hull.
Could it?
Yeah.
Because the submarine has to stay under all that pressure? I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know. How sharp is the front of a tugboat, maybe? Maybe that's what I'm not taking into consideration. I don't know.
Tugboats are very powerful. They haul, they can take the Queen Mary and pull it around. I mean,
I saw that George Clooney movie. It went all the way up a wave. So I get it.
Wave. So, and then everybody on the boat dies except one guy, which they only left that one guy alive so it wouldn't be like a Forrest Gump thing where they say, well, one guy survived. And then he sees a hummingbird, and the hummingbird flies off in the middle of the ocean. You like the hummingbird? No,
I hate the hummingbird. And I'm so mad that they kept bringing a hummingbird back in places it would never be.
Well, it's all he did. They only did the hummingbird twice, but the sea captain also did he have a hummingbird tattoo?
It was either a tattoo or just a story he was telling, but the hummingbird's great or whatever. But I don't even care about the tugboat captain. What does the bird have to do with Benjamin Button? Like, it's not his bird. He doesn't love the hummingbird. Someone else loved the hummingbird, and all of a sudden now he sees it, and then the old woman sees it at the end in a fucking hurricane. And I'm like, no, she doesn't even know anything about the hummingbird.
Well, she just heard the story about the hummingbird.
Okay, sure, but she's senile, Dan. She's not holding any. She has no retention right now.
So he goes home after the war, 4 more years, and he meets Cate Blanchett's character, Daisy, who's all grown up and is like 20 years old. It would have been 45, so he would have been 27, and she would have been 22, I think.
That sounds good. Yeah.
And what did you think of that scene?
Where she tries to sleep with him. That's the scene we're talking about. Well, I will say it's one of the few times in the movie that I enjoyed the cinematography. Like when they're in like the pool light dancing off the ceiling. Like it was a very pretty scene to me. And then she just throws herself at him and he's like, well, just not tonight. I was like, wait, what's happening?
And what does the voiceover say? Let me go to the voiceover.
Go to the voiceover.
His voiceover, he says, this is my favorite line of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Our lives are defined by opportunities, even the ones we miss.
Yes. But
this line has nothing to do with what happened in that scene.
Not only does it have nothing to do with the scene, but so let's pretend that it does have something to do with the scene. And he's saying, I missed on my opportunity to hook up with her or whatever, or like, form a relationship with her, which is untrue of the story, because then later she says a very specific line where she's like, I'm glad nothing happened then, because then this wouldn't have happened and we did it at the right time. So not only did you not miss your opportunity, not doing it then was the right choice, and then you had the opportunity later. So I don't understand why that line is in the movie.
It's in the movie because a writer wrote that line. And you know what he did? He fell in love with that line and he put it there. And there was a director making a movie that didn't say, what is this line doing here? This line has nothing,
Or Fincher was like, why is this line in here? And then the writer was like, because I love it. And he's like, okay, it's a weird movie anyhow. I don't care.
He could have said, sometimes we make choices that we regret, but they're the right choices. Okay. He was going to regret it, but it was the right choice because he's going to fall back in love with her because his future, he knows the future. But no, he doesn't. This is a character without without a philosophy. He actually
for sure
never comes to a philosophy of what his life is about. Except
I didn't come to that either.
He just sleeps with people like
one or two, maybe three. That was my favorite line in the movie. Because I think that might have been one of the only times I laughed in the movie. It was when I slept with one or two women, maybe three. I was like, yeah, dude, you get him, Benjamin. I mean, so then Brad Pitt, he's beautiful. Let's just agree when he's straight Brad Pitt. Oh, beautiful man.
We were watching the fly fishing one last night. We watched the first maybe half an hour of that
Legends
movie.
of the Fall?
No, the other one. Where river runs through it.
Yes. Okay.
Robert Redford. He's beautiful. Younger brother. They go over. I haven't seen that movie ever. And like his brother. At one point, they go on the river and they go through these falls. And the one brother gets aggravated. He does it because he has to. And Brad Pitt's character's like, "Yeah, I live life. I'm on the edge." And then they fight. And you're just like, in that little 10 minutes of scene, we understand who Brad Pitt's character is. We understand who the brother is, and we understand that there's a conflict between these two because they're very different, and that's probably the central conflict of the movie.
Yes.
Benjamin Button, there is no conflict. There's no place he's starting from and going to. There's nothing for him to learn. He's not a character. He's just sort of a casual observer in his own life where if a woman comes along, he'll listen to her. If she wants to sleep with him, most of the time he will sleep with them.
Except for the one time.
Based on nothing. And that's all he is. He doesn't grieve. I mean, he picks up his real dad at one point and carries him out to where his dad's favorite thing is, and then the dad dies. He knows the exact right minute that his dad is going to die, and just decides to show up at his house and carry him to his death.
I'm going to pitch this, Dan. Maybe he poisoned him. He's like, you're dying already. I'm going to carry you out here. While he's carrying him, he just slips him a little something.
Injects him in the neck.
You'll die with me next to you, and I'll inherit your fortune. This is a good movie. I think I missed some of the good parts.
Maybe that's what's happened in this movie.
I had a problem with the dock that he brought the dad to. Two problems. They're the same problem. There were two chairs staggered. Why are the chairs staggered on that dock? Just so that we could get a shot of the dad with Brad Pitt soft in the background? Like, it was just an aesthetic choice? Because why would anyone stagger chairs if they're looking at a sunset? I don't understand that. And then later we come back to that same dock and it's a bench. I don't get it. I don't get it. I was very upset.
Mr. Continuity there. I didn't catch that one.
They made a point of making me see it, and then they just change it. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. But nothing in this movie makes sense.
Now we're gonna unpack. Man, we're almost at 50 minutes. We're doing good. Okay. Now we're gonna unpack two things that I think are very important to unpack. Number one is the Daisy twist of fate accident scene. And then we're going to unpack Mr. Lightning.
Oh my God, I almost forgot. I have so many notes about those lightning things. Okay, let's start with Daisy. Fucking lightning. I hate David Fincher sometimes. Okay, so the Daisy scene, the things that I want to say about the Daisy scene is that it was painfully long. You
don't say.
I don't understand. You set up, he goes to the hospital to see her. It's like, okay, something happened to her. Great. What happened? So then he goes through like 9 steps of random events that really I don't care about at all to get to the accident. But then instead of doing the 9 steps and then the accident, he reverses and does all 9 steps backwards and is like, well, now if any one of those wouldn't have happened, it's like, I get it. I got it 20 minutes ago, guys. Just get to the accident. Let me see her get run over. So I didn't like it. I didn't like that scene. It bothers me a lot. What don't you like? Unpack it, Dan. Let's hear it.
It was stupid. And it was I mean, in some ways it was pitching like a whole nother movie, and as if that's like the pivotal point in somebody's life. Mm-hmm. And it kind of even isn't, yeah, it was a transition point, but it wasn't like, it didn't lead her to truly finding that which she loved most in life. Mm-hmm. I mean, she loved, well, I mean, if we based on the ending, that is all she was there to do was dance. Sure. Okay, do the lightning. Do the lightning.
Well, I don't even know what to say about the lightning. Did
they do all 7?
I should have counted. I honestly didn't count because I was getting so annoyed. Have I ever told that I've been struck by lightning 7 times? Yes, you've told us. But my problem is the weird fucking flashback with the Instagram filter of grain that I was like, you can do that in iMovie with 1 click. Why are you doing this in a movie with like a multi-million-dollar budget? It looks so dumb, and it's just some guy getting zapped by lightning. Why am I seeing this? Why? It didn't pay off. Nothing. There was no reason for it except for in his wrap up when he's like, some people get struck by lightning. Like, I don't know.
That probably was the 7th one. That's probably why they had to do that, because everyone was like, we're on pins and needles. When's 7 coming? When's 7 coming?
I need to see it. It's my favorite part of the movie. I don't understand why it's in there. I have no idea.
And that was a whole nother sort of aesthetic point, is each of these weird flashbacks they would treat sort of differently. Yep. The lightning one was sort of done another way. The clock thing was done a sort of old filmy way too, but the twist of fate had like a different sort of bent than the movie too, but it wasn't one of those other ones. It was a new. I mean, it just seemed like, what can we do to make this stand out from the movie? It almost felt like they were just trying to make these little mini movies in the movie, sure, but they didn't, they didn't mean anything.
The only thing that I started thinking, and I might be way off on this, is that the different way that they do it means something different. Like the guy getting struck by lightning, maybe he didn't get struck by lightning. Maybe that's all in his crazy old head. And so like it's done differently, so we know that this is not actual memories, right? But as opposed to maybe the clock one didn't happen. And I don't know. I don't know, Dan.
Mr. Gatow made the clocks. Okay.
That's his name. What did it meant something. I don't remember. Cat, goat, I don't know.
So he takes his dad to die. New York City, she doesn't want him. He bums around as a rich guy. She has the accident. Then Daisy comes back and they go on the boat and watch the rocket go up. And then mom comes back. The mom is dead. So he sells the house. And when he's selling the house, the people in there, all his family photos are there, and he says the photos come with the house.
No, they don't, dude. That's creepy. Take them with you. Aren't they your pictures? What do you mean they come with the house?
I mean, it's supposed to mean this wasn't my family. Queenie was my family. Was her name Queenie? Taraji P. Henson's character.
Yep.
Queenie was my, but even that he never really, he wrestles with the dad. Oh, he gets mad at the dad when the dad tells him he's his dad. But then in the next scene, he takes the dad out to die and is cool with things.
Right,
So
and then he
he's
throws
sort
in
of
that
like,
line,
what's
like
the
at
line?
the end, you gotta let it go. It's like, okay, well, you didn't have to wrestle with that very long. Like you were just pretty much okay with it.
So he sells that house, but keeps the other stuff, and then it's time for sex apartment.
Which is great. Good for them. You know, like they're going at it all the time, man. Good for them. But I will say, and I mean, you know, this is neither here nor there other than sexual education. It seems as if they weren't using protection because then she gets pregnant, right? But then he has this entire like freak out where he's like, well, how am I going to be a dad? You didn't think about that before you didn't wear a condom, guy? Who's teaching you sexual education?
And I have to imagine when he's sleeping with one or two girls or maybe three.
Picked up a little something.
No, he would have. Yes, he would have learned something. You know?
Wasn't his first time with a prostitute and they like did it a bunch of times? I don't know. Again, I wasn't alive during this time, but you know, nowadays you have to wear a condom with a prostitute. I imagine that would have been similar back then. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but
and they did have them back then, so they were available to him.
Okay,
like whatever.
Get your shit. You got to get your head on straight, Benjamin.
So then she's pregnant, and then he just abandons her immediately because after the baby after she has the baby, he abandoned her.
They were there for a little bit.
So he sells everything.
Walks out in the middle of the night.
He sells everything, leaves them the money, says, you go find a husband. She opens a dance school, and then he comes back.
I'm confused about because it says she'll never dance again, right? Like that was a very big point that they wanted to make. But how do you teach dance without dancing a little bit? Like you have to show them the move, or does she just explain the moves and then they're supposed to do them? That doesn't make sense to me.
I think there's lots of dance teachers that couldn't competitively go up there against the big guns, but they can still show the move. When they say
she can't dance, they mean she can't like dance the way she used to. Not she can't dance.
She can't dance like a 20. What was I watching? I was watching something, and it was a dance person, and they were like teaching classes to like people that were older. Mm-hmm. Like people that were in their 50s and 60s. And she was saying, I think it was a woman, she was saying, when she teaches the move to someone who's never danced before, there's just joy in them learning it. When she's working with people that had danced as younger people, there's tragedy in teaching, and dealing with them.
Oh, that's
because they can see what has been lost.
Wow.
That is it's a very tragic, and I mean, and we barely even scratched the tragedy of that lost career. What would a scene look like where she's like, here are all these beautiful dancers, and she goes back and she just cries and cries and cries.
But that's too much emotional commitment to the film. Like they don't want you emotionally invested at all. It's just snippets of a life. Nobody cares. Because we can't get too emotionally invested in her. Otherwise, then we're sad when she dies, maybe at the end. I don't know.
So Benjamin Button comes back when she's 10 and they meet. And so he kind of gets to see the daughter for 30 seconds. And then what scene do we have right after that?
I have no idea. What scene do we have right after that?
She goes to Benjamin Button's room and they have sex.
Oh, the hotel, when she just knocks on the door.
While she's married, she's like, I deserve this.
Well,
I don't even know what it is. In her
defense, now he's like a young 18, very sexy, very like I would have done it too. All right. I've been sleeping with an old man. Now he's this beautiful young guy and I'm 50, maybe 55. Yeah, I'm going to get some of that. No, dumb. It's so dumb.
I mean, isn't that the time where you meet at the bar and it's this beautiful thing where you share the stories of your child and you share before we started shooting this video, I was watching The Dodo. It was about a woman who had a little dog. You know what The Dodo is?
No.
On YouTube? Mm-mm. It's like heartfelt animal stories. and I always watch it, and I always get emotional.
Yep.
And this woman was deploying to Kuwait, and so she had to like leave her little dog, and she left it with this family, and then the dog was with them for 10 months, and then she comes back, and like it's like a little 6-minute story, and you just start tearing up after 3 minutes.
Did the dog remember her?
Oh yeah, of course the dog remembered her.
okay.
And the dog got in the car with her, and they drove off, and it was happily ever after.
Nope. I would be just bawling. I can't handle that.
This is a guy and all this stuff, and it's like, and okay, so she has sex with they have sex with her, and then 10 years later he shows up with the diary, and Cate Blanchett's character has to like be with him those final 10 years every day for 10 years. Her husband is dead, and
so
the daughter is.
Yes, that's my question. The daughter. Where is the daughter during these 10 years? Because she had no idea what her mom was doing for 10 years. What kind of a kid are you?
Hey mom,
Seems like a bad relationship.
Hey mom, I'm at college. What are you up to today? Nothing.
Nothing. I'm not doing anything. Don't worry about it.
I'm coming home tomorrow. Oh man, I got to go out for 2 hours to deal with Benjamin Button, but I'm going to tell you I'm out getting coffee.
Coffee with friends every day.
I'm going to go back to another line.
Okay.
After about 2 hours, when she's talking about, this is after the New York City jilting scene.
Okay.
We're back to Julia Ormond and the dying mother and the thing. She says, Mom, you never mentioned your dancing.
Dancing. How is so? If
your mom is essentially a world famous prima ballerina of the, it's New York, so that's got to be
it's a big deal
of the biggest of the biggest. Nah, Mom never mentioned it.
What do you think she did for the first 27 years of her life? I don't understand. How does that never? And so
have you ever Googled your mom's name? Prima ballerina, mom.
If we are to believe that that accident was that big of an emotional impact to her that she never spoke of dancing again, even though she became a dance teacher.
School.
Right? Like what? I don't understand how that never would have been mentioned. Like, was it just like, oh yeah, I used to be a dancer when I was young, but not anymore? Like, maybe is that the most that she gets from? What kind of a relationship does this woman have with her daughter? They don't seem like they know each other at all.
And the daughter is 40 years old, 35 to 40 years old
herself.
At least, we will not speak of dancing in this house. Wakanoya Dance School.
And doesn't he ask if she's a dancer, and she's like, nah, she's not very good. So like they've talked about dancing. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't buy that she would never even mention that she was a dancer.
So she takes care of Benjamin Button from 10 to 0. He turns into a baby whose eyes shut, which made Tony cry.
That was the only part where I was upset. And not because I'm emotionally connected to Benjamin Button, but just because watching an infant close its eyes for the last time is a horrifying image. I don't ever do that again.
And that's where, I don't know. I don't know if I'll say it was emotionally manipulative, but just watching this poor kid go through dementia and dying was emotional for me. Very emotional for me.
Sure.
And very rough. And I don't know if I felt it was exploitative of me, but after not emotionally investing me in these characters, just making me emotionally invested by doing things that like you could do in anybody could do a movie about that, and
it would be sad. And
for that matter, you could make it 1,000 times sad. If I'd have really cared about these characters, yes, I would have died at the end of the movie.
And that's the only reason that I'm happy that the rest of the movie was basically a snooze fest and I didn't care about anyone, because if I had to watch a character that I had grown connected to as a child going through that, I'm out.
That's true. It would have been near impossible to watch.
And so maybe that's what Fincher did. Maybe he knew that and was like, you know what? Instead of making you like any of my characters, I'm going to do the opposite. So you only kind of care at the end of the movie. I don't want anyone to walk away like, oh, I'm so sad. I don't know.
Okay, so then the clock gets flooded by water and it's still running
Why
or
did we
something.
come back to the clock, Dan?
Because he's
Why
been dead.
is
Why
this clock important? I don't know.
In a real movie, the clock would have started running backwards the minute he was born, and it would have stopped
when he died.
Minute he died.
Great. I love that. I love it. That's not in this movie. Don't put this in this movie, Dan, because it's
not what happened in this movie because they didn't want to spell it out. And then we have this scene where Brad Pitt's voiceover talks about all the peoples he knew during his life and so unpack that one for us, Tony.
Granted, the movie's very long, so I did forget a lot of it going through. So I was like, oh, I remember that now. Thanks, Brad. But why am I watching a recap of nothing? Because he's not saying anything of value. He's just saying the things that they kind of did. Like, what is the point? Who cares? I feel like there's no weight to anything. But this kid that just died is basically just telling me, like, I knew a guy once who got struck by lightning. I knew a dancer. I knew a guy who was an artist. It's like, I don't care about the people you've met in your life unless they made an impact on you. Tell me why I should care. There's never a reason. The movie doesn't give me a reason to care about anyone that they tell me about. And I don't care to recap it at the end. I'm just like, okay, baby's dead. Let's move on. I don't know.
There's your clip. Baby's dead. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Wrap it up, guys.
So that's the movie. Now we're gonna unpack the whole movie. No, during the course of my research. Okay, first of all, this is based on an F. Scott Fitzgerald
short story.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, yes, I know who that is. And that's the only thing I knew going into it. And I haven't read it, but I imagine it's pretty boring.
I read the synopsis. It has nothing to do with this movie. Nothing.
Okay, what's it about?
He's kind of a dick his whole life.
I would watch that.
And so at one point, they don't let him into Harvard when he's an old young man, and when he's a young old man, they let him in, and he tries to get into Harvard, and then when he's an old young man, he gets into Yale, and then he's on the football team, and then he crushes Yale. He goes back and crushes Harvard, but then he keeps getting younger, and then he gets weak and can't crush them the second year or something like that.
Oh, interesting. That sounds way more interesting than anything we saw in this movie.
Oh yeah, no. In the story, he actually goes out and lives a life that you're just like, oh, he's living a life.
Okay, so I'll go. I wish I would have read the story before we did this. Now I should have done that.
So this movie was in turnaround hell forever. Not turnaround hell, but bounced around 1,000 different places since the 80s. The first combo. Here's the first combo: Frank Oz directing, Martin Short, Benjamin Button.
I'm in. I'm actually 100% in because that movie sounds like it's going to be a little more lighthearted, but also
fantasy.
Yes, and also I feel like Martin Short can pull off like a little bit goofy, but also so like lovable that I think I would be in.
And some interesting emotional core to that.
100%.
You would be really stricken watching Martin, because I wasn't stricken watching because it was a Brad Pitt. I wasn't stricken by that. I was stricken by the idea of it, but that character. Okay, that was one of the first ones. Second one, Spielberg, Tom Cruise.
I mean, I don't know how much we've talked about this, but I love Tom Cruise, but I still don't think I could watch that movie. I don't.
Third one, Ron Howard.
That's a great start.
John Travolta.
No. Nope. But I feel like that was that the 90s? Do you have a year for that one?
I think this is might have been it probably was 90s. Yeah.
I feel like it's probably around like his turn where he was doing like that movie where he's like lightning. I don't remember any of these movies.
Oh, where he's like a space alien or he's an angel? Michael?
Yeah, Angel Michael, yeah.
My dad loves that movie.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Last one, Spike Jonze,
Oh boy.
Script by Charlie Kaufman.
That would have been a very different movie.
All four of those would have been completely different movies.
And I feel like all of them would have been better. Even the Tom Cruise one. At least I could have laughed through the thing. Let's talk real quickly. I want to talk about Brad Pitt just in general in this movie, because I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan. I love Brad Pitt.
I love Brad Pitt.
I think he's great. He doesn't do anything in this movie. Nope. And then he was nominated for so I feel like I'm missing something because people thought his performance was good. All I saw him do was kind of put a gravel to his voice. Well, I'm in the South now. I'm old. Like, okay, I can do that.
Think about the final monologue in Inglourious Bastards.
Yes.
Where he's out there in the forest. And I mean, I rewatched that a couple weeks ago, and I'm just like, this is beautiful. These are consummate actors.
Yeah.
This is it's like Tarantino at his absolute best writing. Tarantino's all over the place. There's stuff we love, stuff we hate. But I mean, you're going to take off that uniform, and he's like,
because the guy is good. He's a good actor, and I feel like Fincher's direction was like too much. Make it a little more dull, a little more plain. You're doing too much with your face. Keep it still. Don't show anything in your eyes. Too much. Okay, great. You look like cardboard. Let's roll. There's just nothing. There's nothing here the whole movie. And maybe they were maybe like the thing was like, don't move your face too much because this digital animation we're putting on you can't track your face. And so he's like, I'll just be still the whole time so it's not weird when I'm old or young. I don't know. It felt like so much wasted talent in this movie.
Waste. Big pile of.
I think this was received pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe I checked the Rotten Tomatoes. I think it might have been up in the 80s or something.
None of the movies that I like are in the 80s. I'll tell you that right now. Everything I love is like 40 to 60.
So, yes, I just think this was one of those perfect storms of writing that was like nothing lasts.
What is the runtime of this movie? Like 2 hours and 45 minutes?
2 hours and 45 minutes, and you get in an hour, and you're just watching every minute roll by painfully.
You can cut a full hour of that movie and still have the same basic movie, and then I may not hate it as much. I don't think.
Oh no, I hate it.
You think so?
Well, and I'm gonna say this: I don't hate that movie. I didn't hate the movie. I just really didn't care.
Sure. You're ambivalent, kind of.
I'm ambivalent to the movie. I hated the waste.
For sure.
You have wasted so much time and energy and like money to make this thing that it's kind of like, what we were watching something and they were talking about James Cameron. Oh God, it's this terrible thing. We're watching it was the intro to A River Runs Through It. And it was on PBS, and it was this weird guy doing like a 5-minute intro where he talked about box office receipts and the biggest box office movies. And then he's like, at the end, he's like, this movie didn't make that kind of money. Here it is. He didn't talk about the movie. He talked about nothing to do with it. And he brought up the Avatar movie, the James Cameron, and he's like, James Cameron is making how many new Avatar movies is James Cameron working on right now?
Aren't they? It's not just a trilogy anymore, right? It's more than 3.
It's
4. Okay, I didn't like the first one. I'll just say that right now.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good action adventure.
It's Pocahontas and Fern Gully and just it looks pretty. I'll give you that. It's a beautiful movie, but what a boring story for me.
And I think if we did that movie on this thing, we would easily do that movie because there's when he pulls out the robot knife at the end, you're just like, Robot knife? Come on.
Yeah, come on,
Let's
guys.
not do
Lazy.
robot knife.
That's lazy
Just,
story.
maybe just have the knife, pop out. But he literally pulls a loose knife out of a knife holster. His robot knife. It's scaled for the robot. You're just like,
yeah. Maybe we should do that at some point. We'll do Avatar someday. Come on, it's great.
We could talk about who is the star of that guy that never did anything again, although he did 7 more blockbuster movies.
Boy, is it a Sean? I don't remember.
You do not. That movie made more money than any other movie at its time. And that guy starred in Clash of the Titans and maybe another blockbuster. Shoot. Sam Johnson?
Oh, my God.
Sam, it's with a W. Watson, Wilson, Sam.
Whitworth. No, that's someone different, I think. I don't know.
Neither of us can come up with his name.
Yikes.
Sam Jones.
He's rich.
Or was that the guy in Flash Gordon?
Flash Gordon's great.
That's great. That's a great movie. So, any final thoughts on Benjamin Button? What about those spilling buttons at the beginning of the titles?
So I had no idea anything that was happening. So like when the buttons were, I was like, is that just a clever pun on his name? But it's because his dad owns a button factory, which is, you don't learn that for a while. So to put that at the very beginning to me was super out of place and weird. But, what do I know? I don't make movies.
And your final thoughts?
Okay, my final thoughts. You don't have to watch this movie. That's the that's my tagline of my final thoughts. Don't watch this movie.
Don't watch this movie.
So it kind of reminds me of a movie I feel like it was made around the same time. I can't remember the name of it. It was an Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor?
Ewan.
And it's a story, like he's telling the story through his life, and it's kind of got magical elements in it. And that movie was beautiful. We'll cut this out because I don't remember the name of it now.
But Moulin Rouge.
No, well, we could talk for days about Moulin Rouge. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. That's in my top 10.
That's in your top 10?
It is in my top 10. I mean,
talk about a movie that's like emotional and dark and sad.
Oh my God.
Like I don't think I'd watch the ending of that movie.
True story. I stop it. I really do. I literally, when the curtain pulls and he's holding it, I can't watch it. I bawl. I cannot watch. So I stop it early and it's a happy ending and everything's good. It's because I'm a child.
So there's a Ewan McGregor movie where he's
Big Fish. It's called Big Fish.
Big Fish was good.
It was great, and it's a movie similar to this, where it's just kind of like a story. It's not a real movie. It's just like, we're watching this person's life in a story, and he's kind of telling it as he's older, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly. And it kind of reminds me of this sort of feel, but just done way better, in my opinion.
That was like one of Tim Burton's other good films.
Yes.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. What
are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just such a big waste. Just, you're like, I mean, if you're going to do an emotional movie, then actually just do an emotional movie and make it emotional.
Go for it.
You've set up this incredible premise, which I think it was interesting because I also on the Wikipedia page, they talked about all these other stories where they sort of dealt with this sort of backwards living.
Oh, interesting.
And I didn't see any of those, I read all the little sort of log lines of them, and you're like, nobody's figured it out because what does it mean? What
I don't know.
And I think it's going to take like a really amazing writer to sort of really understand what it would mean to live that backwardsy life. What like you said, you would be a tortured soul. You'd be something.
Yeah, you would be something, and that's the key.
And instead, this movie has chosen to make a character that is really nothing.
Yeah,
which is really sad. He's just, I mean, I hope when I go to my grave, it's like with having, sort of stood for something and sort of pushed something forward into the world. There's a lot of crap I pushed into the world.
A lot of good stuff, Dan.
A lot of good stuff. Drunken Carrot. I'm the Drunken Carrot guy. Jack Black wore my Drunken Carrot shirt one time.
Really?
I have a photo of it, yeah.
That's amazing. So, that's great.
And that's, measuring yourself by your proximity to celebrity is about all we have left in our culture today.
Our society is really doing well.
So I think we're both giving it the skip it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, skip it. Oh God, I love skip it. Skip it. Skip it. You don't remember skip it? Are you too old for skip it?
Thing that goes around your leg and you
goes around your leg and then you whip it around and you jump over it with the other leg. I don't think I could still do it, but we used to love those things. Anyhow,
so we're done with that movie. So the way this show is going to work is each time one of us picks the next movie and gets to spring it on the other person while we're sitting here. So Tony has been spending some time because I picked this movie. So now it's Tony's turn to pick a movie that we will both watch. And we'll do another one of these next week. And so Tony, tell the audience what it is you've chosen.
Here we go. So
after one.
I'm still struggling to find my flow and my rhythm of how I want these to feel to you. But today I'm going to go for a little bit of a torture. And we're going to do the seminal classic 2018 John Travolta hit, Gotti. Have you ever heard of this?
Like he plays Gotti
He plays Gotti. And I've watched the first 15 minutes a couple times and I can't get past it. So we're going to do that movie and it's going to be great. And I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it. It's going to be so good.
Do we even know who directed this movie?
I don't remember who directed it, but it is free on Amazon Prime.
It's not like a TV movie. It's an actual movie.
This is a real movie. I think they put some money behind it. It's not bad. It's gonna be good. You're gonna like it. I think he does a really good job from what I read. He's really spot on.
He was really good on the TV show American Crime Story, which was about the OJ thing. He was great on that.
I actually really enjoyed that. I enjoyed every one of that because David Schwimmer was in that. Yeah,
that thing was. Whew, it's amazing. Yeah, so I think we should, have some shout outs to good stuff that we've seen. In the Vast of Night, which is on Amazon Prime. It's a weird little science fiction movie from last year, and they just put it up. In the Vast of Night is a movie I will suggest to everyone. It's not a typical, but that's when you watch this Benjamin Button and you see just the colossal tidal wave of waste. Oh, yeah. And then you watch a little movie that people did themselves and made, the dialogue in this movie is like, it's like in the early 60s, the dialogue is just so well written, so concise, and so of the time, I can't even comprehend in my brain how somebody sat down and wrote it. Where it's like there's nothing cliched about the dialogue, and it's a very simple movie. It's actually, I think it's real time essentially.
Ooh, that's fun.
And so, I maybe we should do that too. At the end of this, we should also have a pick of the week.
I like that.
Sort of,
but I have one.
Clean your palate from if you sat through we've made you think about Benjamin Button for an hour and a half. So why don't you hit us with a good pick?
Yeah, one more time. Yours is In the Vast of Night.
The Vast of Night. It's kind of like, it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode.
Okay.
That's what it's like. Awesome. A movie length Twilight, and they do some weird things where they have a TV like Twilight Zone, and they do some things that could be like in Benjamin Button. They could be off-putting, but in Benjamin Button, all the things they did like that were off-putting.
Yes.
In this movie, you were like, I don't know what they're getting at. I don't know why they did these things like this, but it kept me interested.
Yeah. Okay.
Back to you.
Again, wasn't prepared, but something that I'm watching right now that is super fun. It's on Netflix, just dropped. It's called Floor is Lava. If you guys remember playing that as a kid, the show is so fun. It's 10 episodes, 30 minutes apiece. It's like a competition show where the floor is, it's just orange water, but it's people trying to get through an obstacle course without falling into it. And it's fun. It's stupid and it's super fun.
You did see Alyssa's on there.
What? No.
Yeah. She's on like the second to last episode.
God dang it. I'm not there yet, but I desperately wanted to be on this show. I didn't know about it before, like 2 days ago, but.
Well, you can contact Alyssa and ask her, for the contact, and you and I can go on. And
I think it would be funny if I did it because, a fat guy jumping through those things, that's hilarious. People love that. Give the people what they want, Netflix.
So this will be our audition tape for Flora's Lava.
We'll just send this on over. You want me to jump around the house a little bit? I could do it. Do it right now.
No. So those are our picks for the week, and we'll be back next week with Gotti.
Gotti.
Woo! Yeah, I thought you were gonna hit me with something interesting, but man, this is gonna be so bad.
I'm sorry. Maybe in 2 weeks I'll give you something interesting. I've got like 3 pages of movies that I wrote down that I'm into.
It's interesting. I was clicking on the cable channel and I'm just like, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Mm-hmm.
I never saw it. I didn't see it yet.
We should probably let's both avoid that one because we might have to do that one.
I think I'm going to have a lot of thoughts on that, Dan. I love the source material. I love it.
And the last 3 or 4 X-Men movies, I could do an hour and a half on very easily because man, have they all been painful.
Yeah.
Except for Quicksilver. I watch those Quicksilver bits on the YouTube and I love them.
That's the one they did. Jim Croce is the song Time in a Bottle that they're rocking while he's running? Ugh.
Well, there's 2 of them, right? There's the one where he saves everybody from the mansion, and there's the one where he breaks out Magneto.
Yes. Yep.
And those 2 scenes are like, just scrap the rest of the movie. One scene. Okay, it's time to say goodbye, Tony.
Wrap it up. Copy that. We've got that with the red lights blinking.
Goodbye, Tony.
Goodbye, Dan. See you next week.
See you next week at
Johnny!
the movies.
Hey, watch it!